Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple, book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. And we are in Isaiah chapter 14. We are looking at who Lucifer is. Now, uh, uh, let me, I have to kind of clarify some stuff because of translations, okay? I'm using the Holman Christian Standard Translation. I am very familiar with the King James and the New King James. So the King James uses the term Lucifer. A lot of modern translations do not use the term Lucifer. Now, Lucifer only appears one time in the King James English Bible. I believe if you have some other translations, it might appear a few more times. So the bigger thing is, what does Lucifer mean? And then you can say, why didn't other translations you include Lucifer? The word Lucifer actually comes from the Hebrew word of morning star or brightness. So again, so that's why I said I'm going to let the scholars battle it out as to whether or not Lucifer should be included or not. But what is, again, from the Hebrew word standpoint, is morning star or brightness. Okay. All right. So let's get back to it. Um, this so we closed off with, again, kind of a glimpse into who Satan is, only from the standpoint of um and again, as we come apart this glimpse of him, who, the being Satan. Now we're going to we're going to um we're going to get another glimpse. You know what? Let me do this because I'm kind of uh let me do this from this standpoint here. Uh, well, oh, I'm looking at Ezekiel, as you can see on the screen right here. I'm looking at Ezekiel, and I'll cover that in a moment. All right, let me go back to. All right. So Isaiah's pointing out here when he says, "Shining morning star, how have you fallen from heaven?" That term, shining morning star, could be used, or as the King James translators will use, uh, like Lucifer, morning star. So when I look at other translations, they don't look at this. Like, for example, I'm reading from the American Standard Version. It says, "Oh, how art thou fallen from heaven, O day star, son of the morning." Okay, and all of that could be used in the word um, Lucifer. Now, again, I'm just addressing the issue as to why Lucifer is not used um, in 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 modern translation versus older translations. Okay, so I'm going to read this. You can't see it on the screen, but I'm going to read this. This is the New King James, and it says, "How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning." So, again, I'll let the scholars battle that out. Okay. Um, but what we have, of course, written here is the idea that he is talking about Satan, and I'm going to read from Ezekiel in a moment. He says, "Shining morning star, have you fallen from heaven, or from the heavens?" And then he says, "You destroyer of the nation." So now we get a kind of a glimpse in terms of the character. This is where this is the character. This is what he's done. And that you've been cut down to the ground, and that you have said to yourself. And this is what he says: "I will ascend to the heavens." Um, I know I wanted to look at something here. Hold on one second. I want to look at something here. Okay, for you said in your heart. sit in the heavens. Mount congregation. I will ascend above the height of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. 5 sayings. I don't know where I got 7 from. Okay, my mistake. All right. So there were 5 sayings he utters here, and then about himself. So one of the things we know about Satan is pride. Okay. Notice what he says here. Now, keep this in mind. This is a glimpse into eternity past. So in other words, this is what happened before the creation of Adam and Eve or mankind. So the modern world as we know it. So we know that there is an innumerable host of heaven, of angels, okay? Innumerable, okay? Billions, trillions, we don't know, but innumerable. A third of the angels rebelled with Satan. Now, those third make up principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness, okay? In other words, his kingdom. They rule, we could say, behind the scenes in the spiritual realm. So you don't see Satan, but we experience the effect. So, for example, one of the ways he seduces men is with thoughts. That's one way we know this. Thoughts. It could use weather. You could say he's a powerful being that he could, if God permits him to. But look at the character of Satan himself. He says, I will ascend to the heavens. In other words, he came to this place where I will ascend to the heavens. I will set up my throne above the stars of God, and I will sit on the mount of the gods' assembly in the remote parts of the north. I will ascend above the highest cloud. I will make myself like the Most High. Now that last statement, I will make myself like the Most High, is it to me most interesting. That what else would he have to compare himself to greatness and power? Now, the sin here is not recognizing that he was this way because God made him that way. Okay? So that's his character here, the pride in his character. That I will set up my throne above the stars of God. Right? So in other words, his purpose was to overthrow God. Now, again, a most sad story. Because from here now we see this entire corruption of God's creation. Look at it more as a contamination, right? A contamination. The very presence of darkness represents the contamination that Satan brought, or Lucifer, or the devil. Okay? Here we can say morning star. The very mere presence of darkness. And then we know as we enter into the eternal realm that darkness will be eradicated. There will be no more darkness. But that darkness represents the rebellion first introduced through Satan. And here it is. I will set up my throne above the stars of heaven. I will sit on the mount of the gods of the assembly in the remotest parts of the north. I will ascend above the highest clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. Okay? Now, let's go to Ezekiel, get another picture. And this is found in Ezekiel chapter 28, Verse 11 says, Moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, raise up a lamentation over the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus saith the Lord God. Now, if you go back early in this chapter, he talks about the prince of Tyre, and now he switches over, and then he talks about the king of Tyre, but this is a spiritual being. We will see this in a moment. He says, You were the signet of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. And this is how we know when he talks about this king of Tyre, which the switch over. I'll get more into this in a moment in terms of what this kingdom of darkness is about. It says, You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering: sardis, topaz, and diamond, beryl, oxnard, and jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle. And crafted in gold were your setting and your engravings. On the day that you were created, they were prepared. Now, so we get this glimpse of how Satan looked before. We don't know if he looks like this now. In other words, if we was to see him, if God was to open our eyes and we see in the spiritual realm, we don't know if he would look like this. But this is how he was when he was, and notice his term, created. Now you remember he said, I'm going to be like the Most High. Well, that was certainly stupid of Satan, because you were created. You could never be like the Most High because you were created. God was not created. And so it should be noted. You were created. Verse 14, you were an anointed guardian cherub. So we kind of see rankings of heavenly beings. Now, sometimes we call them angels, right? We call them angels. Now, that's kind of an inaccurate term, because out of the heavenly beings that are listed in the Bible, angels is but one. And angels themselves mean messengers. So whenever you see an angel, you always see a being that's delivering a message. So Gabriel or some other angel, they're always giving a message. Then you have what's called an archangel, which is Michael, which is a warring angel. You see him show up and he's fighting, okay? You're going to see him in Daniel fighting. You're going to see him in Revelation chapter 12, where he expels Satan out of the heavenlies. Then there are seraphims. We see that. Remember Isaiah 6. We can see these creatures, 6 wings. They fly and say, Holy, holy, holy. Now, so cherub then would seem to be of the highest order of heavenly beings, right? The highest order of heavenly beings. He says, you were an anointed guardian cherub. Notice this. I placed you. You were on the holy mountain of God. In the midst of the stones of fire you walked. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, till unrighteousness was found in you. In the abundance of your trade, you were filled with violence in your midst, and you sinned. So I cast you as a profane thing from the mountain of God. And I destroyed you, O guardian cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Your heart was proud because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor. I cast you to the ground. I exposed you before kings to feast their eyes on you. By the multitude of iniquities and in righteousness of your trade, you profaned your sanctuaries. I brought a fire out from your midst, it consumed you, and I turned you to ashes on the earth in the sight of all who saw you, and all who know you among the peoples. or Paul at you. You have come to a dreadful end and shall be no more forever. Now, we know that this happens in Revelation chapter 20, the end of Satan. So we see from these two passages sort of a glimpse of who he is. He was one of the highest order of cherubs, and possibly the highest, full of wisdom. In fact, I'm going to go say he was the highest, and yet, and here's where the mystery for me comes. And no doubt, I would have to wait till we get to heaven to find out how this be. In other words, when God created Satan, okay, when God created Satan, he created the capacity for sin. He created the capacity for rebellion. Now, the same thing with Adam. When God created Adam, he created the capacity to sin. They both did. I'm stumped at why, when you had everything, what would possess either one? In other words, here you have Satan, who is the highest angel. He's running things. And yet this thought festered in him to the point where he said, I'm going to be like God. Not only am I going to be like God, I'm going to overthrow God. That seed of sin still is in man. Now, you remember I told you throughout the Bible, one of the threads is the sinfulness of man. The sinfulness of man. And just like the pure stupidity of Satan, who thought he could overthrow God, that he would come against God, that same stupidity of sinful stupidity is in man. We see this in Revelation chapter 19, where they will try to overthrow God. Twice they're going to overthrow it in Revelation 19 and Revelation chapter 20. The sinfulness of man, they will try to overthrow God. That baffles me, the idea of then what sin is, because, Lord, have mercy on me to not get to that point, right? But where that sin nature consumes you such, you are so blinded and so deceived as to think you can, again, overthrow God. But you see in both cases, with Adam and with Satan, and then we see that we see the same with the man of sin, that they will think to overthrow God. You see the same characteristics in the man of sin, and some people call him the Antichrist, that the same characteristics is that, the arrogance, and this is what you kind of see here with Satan, the arrogance of Satan. I will overthrow God, really? The arrogance of it. You see it in mankind, you see it in then the man of sin. And that's what's baffling to me. And as I said before, Lord, have mercy that I can never get to that frame of mind, that deception. All right, guys, don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, if you have a thought or comment, add it to the comment section below. All comments are welcome. I'll see you in the next study.